It's number 50. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live with Lola and Laura, or is it Laura and Lola? Anyway, I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and I am joined by my alter ego, Lola. I have been doing some version of a vlog or a live for a few years now, and this is the 50th one. I don't even know how that snuck up on us. For a while, when I first started doing them, I would do them just as the spirit moved me. And then during the pandemic, I think for a little while there, I was doing them every week. I think there were a fair number of ones during the pandemic where I was drinking along with you while we were doing lives together. I remember I was like in this tiny little cubicle in my office, and now we're up in our video studio, which is my daughter's old bedroom, or a corner of it anyway. And I am thrilled to see you all here. So, a few things I like to get over with at the very beginning of a live before we jump right in. I can see many of you chatting over in the chat box if you are watching live, because I know many of you are going to watch this later and won't be watching live. I won't be responding that much to the chat. I kind of have it off to the side. I find I get very distracted if I read it a lot. So if you all in the chat right now want to chime in and say where you're from and maybe how long you've been watching my lives, that would be really fun for you all to see. And then those of you who are watching later, you can actually hit the replay chat button so that you can see the chatter coming up as you're watching this later. Because of all that, at the very end of this live, I will ask if there's any questions, and that is when I will look over at the chat box to see if there's any questions. It's very possible that a question that you have is going to get answered during tonight, so you'll get the answer to it already. Or if you still have that question, I'm happy to answer it for you. Important for me to remember to tell you, because I always forget, that once this is over, I will give you links to everything I talk about below. So if you ask in the comments, how do you find the fabric store I talk about, or the kits for Bling T, or whatever it is, as soon as this is over, I run downstairs, I have all those links ready to go, and I put them up into the show notes. I know what's going to happen is if I give them to you early, you're going to get distracted and go off and go shopping. So I wait till the end of this, and then I make sure that you have all of those. I also try to put those links up in my Ravelry group. There's a thread for every live, so I try to get them up in there, or at least a link to this, so that it's easy for you to find them. So welcome. I can see people introducing themselves from all over, which is a blast and tons of fun. I think that the sound is sounding better this live, which thumbs up. We have no idea what happened with the last live. I'm looking at Max to see if I'm getting a thumbs up before I'm lying. I got a thumbs up. Excellent. I have a lot to tell you about tonight. I have been giggling as I've been preparing for this live. This is the longest I've been home in months and months, and my creative juices are flowing. My energy is high. It has been a blast to be sleeping in my own bed for so many consecutive nights in a row. I think since the last live, I went to New York City to the Big Apple Knitters Guild to teach, and then I've been home ever since then. And we got Lola's Choice kit out the door. I have been working hard on future club projects and future collaborations. Now is the time for knitwear designers that we are really trying to think about fall and think about the future, because now is the time we get things rolling to have stuff ready for then. And that's like knitting season is our season. I want to quickly talk about the elephant in the room. I know a few of you mentioned in the comments earlier that you heard that Stitches, which is also XRX, which was a book publishing and events company. They used to have a magazine called Knitters Magazine, and they had a line of books, and then they also did events called Stitches around the US. They declared bankruptcy on Monday, which was an absolute shock because I know that they were running an event, a virtual event last weekend that many of my friends taught at, had no idea what Stitches was doing, and then Stitches has not paid anybody for the labor that they basically ended up giving for free. I understand bankruptcy law. I understand that actually when a company is looking at declaring bankruptcy, that legally they cannot say that they are declaring bankruptcy because they have to be trying to do business as usual. So I kind of understand some of the background of the situation, but it is an absolute shame. So if you know anybody who teaches a lot for Stitches or vends a lot at Stitches, there's a lot of vendors that are out their booth fees for future Stitches where they already paid their booth fees. Support them. Those are people to buy yarn from, take classes from, buy patterns from. I'm feeling for my fellow colleagues right now. This is not an easy business to be in. And when you kind of have your eggs in a basket and then that basket bottom collapses out from under you, you end up being the collateral. So I just wanted to say that because I feel really bad for everybody. And if you have any questions about who those people are, I think there's a list that's trying to be developed to help you all find who those people are who could use a little extra support. And I'll share that link below once I find it. Okay, so that I wanted to say. And then I have so much to share with you. I want to tell you about Chillow collar, which I am wearing a version of around my neck. So those of you who were in May's Lola's Choice club got a kit, and I'll show you that kit in a second that you got. I have some stories to tell you about that one. I also want to tell you about Bling T, which I'm wearing. So somebody's about to ask, what are you wearing? And I am wearing Bling T, which is my latest sweater design. The pattern is coming out in mid-June. And right now, pre-orders are open for kits in my Etsy shop. And kits for Bling T and Bling Tank are 10% off for now. I think I'm getting a remote control over here in case it gets hot, because I get really hot in the studio when I start to chat a lot. Thank you, Max. He tries to be all slick, whatever. So I'm going to tell you about Bling T a bit, and I know some of you are on the fence whether you want to join the knit along that we're going to have in June and July once that pattern comes out and the kits ship. I'm going to show you all the colors for the kits. I'll show you how easy it is to do the beading. I have a few photos to show you to talk about styling, and it might help some of you decide if you want to join along or not. And then I'm also going to share with you what's on my needles, what I'm planning to be on my needles, what I am reading and watching and listening to. I have lots of photos of home, of my garden, of Taganic Falls over the last few weeks. I've just really had my camera with me and been at home, which has been a blast. Lots of fun. My hands are clean right now. I've been gardening a lot, and I kind of cleaned up and did my nails today so they'd look okay under the camera. That is turning out to be one of my biggest struggles in gardening season is shooting video when I feel like my hands are just trashed and I'm loving being outside. I did manage to finally find some gardening gloves that seem to keep my hands clean. I actually even Googled best gardening gloves for keeping your hands clean. And I read one post that said if you wear rubber gloves, if you put lotion on and then wear rubber gloves, latex gloves, and then put gardening gloves on, that your nails will stay really nice. And I am never going to do that because that sounds hot AF and I am not interested in that. So, but I did find some better gardening gloves that seem to be letting less dirt through. So yay. Let me look at my list. I'm going to start with Bling T. How's that? We'll start with Bling T. We'll go into the story of Chillow collar. Move on for there. I'll give you the link to the gardening gloves. I just looked over in the chat and saw somebody wants that. So they were just on Amazon, but they seem to be working really well. Anyway, Bling T. So I am wearing the size 3 of Bling T. Bling T is designed to have about 2.5 inches of ease. So if you are looking at sizing of Bling T and you aren't sure what size to make for you, you want to measure your full bust and then look along the size chart for the size that is closest to your full bust, and know that it is going to be at about 2.5 inches bigger. If you're in between sizes, think about how you like your sweaters to fit. If you like them to fit a little more loosely, you're going to want to go up a size. And if you like your sweaters to fit a little bit more snugly, you're going to go down a size. What I want to show you is a few photos of Bling T, and how I've kind of styled it and how I love to wear it. So there is Bling T right there with me doing the French tuck, which I have been very into lately. Max has been calling this the let me show you my belt buckle. I really, really love my belt buckle look. And then let me show you this belt. I've been doing it with like all my different belts. This belt, I posted a photo of me wearing this belt the other day on Facebook, and I felt like it got more attention than the sweater, which is really funny. And it is a belt I got years ago in Northampton when I was visiting Smith with my mom. So a really long time ago, and I do love it. But there is Bling T, and you can kind of see on the very downside that there's a little notched hem, and I'm going to show that to you a little bit more closely as we go through. Here is Bling T not tucked in, so more of like a t-shirt shape. I wear it like this a lot as well. There is no belt with this outfit, obviously. Sorry, Max. Most of these photos have my head cut off for one reason or another. We're our own worst critic. We know that. So here is kind of a close-up of what's happening with that notched hem. And one of the things that I love about Bling T is this effortless hem. So the front and the back, Bling T is actually worked in the round from the bottom up, and it's got faux side panels. So it looks like a lot of my patterns that have those side panels that are added afterwards, like Bling Tank, but this is worked in the round. So the first thing that you do is you work 2 folded turned hems, and then you join those into the round with side panels, which makes this really slick notched hem, which I love to use in my sweater designs, because what it does is give you room for your hips and your bum so that your sweater can hang really nicely off your shoulders and not kind of like get kind of caught at those wider parts of our body, if that makes sense. So I'm all about the notched hem. And then Bling T has a raglan shaped yoke that is also worked in the round. So important for me to say that Bling T is seamless. And the front of that yoke has beads incorporated into the yoke, which I absolutely adore. I am going to just show you this photo, and then I'm going to go back and tell you about Bling T. But until Bling T releases, all of my summer sweater patterns are actually on sale for 25% off until June 1st. So if there's any of my other sweater patterns that you have had your eye on over the years, now is a good time to pick up one of those. And I'll definitely give you the link to all of those below. So I know some of you already have solar tees on your needles from last year, or solar tanks, or hot flash, or Pacificus. It's a great time to get those rolling and off your needles before we cast on for Bling T together. Did you miss me? I'm back. So Bling T kits, the pre-order for the kits, the reason I do a pre-order is to help me kind of ordering ahead for all of the yarns and beads and make sure that I have everything in stock and together. Kits come in 9 colors, and I can actually show those to you under the camera so that you can see them, which I think is really helpful. So if I go to the overhead here, let's hope I get all the names right. This first kind of deep red one is Marauder, and I love that color. This is Envy, and it's got all of those like a lovely background of green with blues. This is Dusty Rose. Somebody correct me in the comments if I get a color wrong. I love the lighter colors and how those beads like really pop off of them. This one is Denim, and this is Lilac. For those of you who love purple, I feel like I always have to do a purple color. This is Smoke, and I have a Bling Tank in Smoke that I wear all the time. I also have a Bling Tank in Heirloom that I also wear all the time. And then this is the copper color, the copper cloud color that I am wearing right now. And then this one right here, I am going to blank on its name. It's the last color that I haven't showed you yet. And it's showing up more blue under this camera. It's actually got a little bit of green in it. And it's really super pretty. And I'm going to show you how to work with the beads. Thank you, Susie. It's spruce, because I believe that's what Susie's knitting hers in, is spruce. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to work with the beads on this pattern. For those of you who haven't worked with spruce before, haven't worked with beads before, these beads are pre-strung on the yarn, and then I'm just going to be incorporating them in. So I'm actually going to even like zoom in a little more so you can see even more closely. And what I'm going to do is I'm at a stitch that needs a bead, and the pattern will say knit one with bead, or K1B. And I'm just going to go up to that stitch, put my needle in, slide up the bead, wrap the yarn around, and pull that bead through. And now I've got that bead kind of sitting up on my needle right there. And then I'll go ahead and knit 3 without a bead. And then I'm going to go to the next stitch, slide up a bead, wrap the yarn around, pull that bead through. And the trick with this technique is that you want those beads to be sitting up on the needle, not in between the stitches on underneath the needle. And now I'm just going to work to the end of the row. And then I am going to cheat here because I want to stay on the right side of my work. And I'm going to slide my stitches to the other end of my needle and then just kind of bring my yarn back and across so that I am ready to work this next row to show you what happens on the next right side row to make sure that those beads are placed correctly. So the goal here when you're doing this is to have your beads looking like that they're laying randomly on your fabric. And the way that I do that is to alternate if the bead is to the front of the left-hand needle on the right leg of the stitch before I go to work into it, or if it's on the back of the needle on the left leg of the stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead, I moved that one to the right, and I'm going to work into that stitch. And now this next one, I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it to the left, so it's on to the back, so it's on the left leg of the stitch, and work into it. And then I'm going to continue like that, alternating the placement of the beads as I work across this row. And I mean, I know that when I knit with beads, I make it look effortless, right? I've been doing this a long time. My fingers just kind of manipulate the bead into place. The more that you do it, the more comfortable it will get for you too. And the more you do it, sometimes the more you're like, where are the beads? I feel like this pattern needs a little bit of something going on in it. So I just wanted to show you that, particularly for people who haven't seen that technique before. I think it's important in these lives that I am teaching as well as inspiring. So that's what I have to tell you about Bling T. I'm going to place orders for the kits next week when I get home from Baltimore. I'll tell you more about that later. And so there's a little bit more time to place those orders, and then I will order extras. And I saw somebody ask actually what the most ordered color is, and I will report back and tell you what the most ordered color is, because it's kind of fun once I crunch those numbers to see what it is. Spruce is a beautiful color, and it's a great color for spring. And I think particularly, like, it would look so good on my mom. She has these like lovely blue eyes, and I think it would look awesome on her. Speaking of my mom, I finished her scarf and got it off before Mother's Day. I was very proud of myself. So I want to tell you the story of Chillow collar. And Chillow collar, I'm trying to think about how to tell you about Chillow collar. So Chillow collar, the one that I'm wearing, does not look familiar to you all. This was the original collar that I knit when I was working on the design. Actually, there was one other one. And I just saw someone ask what color is spruce. This is the spruce color right here. The one that I was knitting on is the spruce color. Sorry, see, distracted, coming back. So Chillow is May's Lola's Choice kit. Lola's Choice is my small knitted kit club. Many of you I know who are watching right now are in that club and have gotten Chillow and know that there are two versions of Chillow. There is the chillaxing Chillow and the chasing Chillow, and I can show you some photos of them. But basically what happened with Chillow is I kind of had the concept for the pattern. I had the teardrop pendants all ready to go, as I'll just show you these as I'm telling you about it. And I had knit them with pearl cotton, which I've used many, many times before. And they were flat and I didn't like it very much. And it just wasn't like, I wasn't fine. I knew I wanted to use the bugles and I knew I wanted to use these size 8 beads and it was not working. And I went to Germany to a trade show and I found some Valdani yarn, which is this like absolutely gorgeous hand painted pearl cotton yarn that's hand painted in Romania. And it kind of just made all the difference with this design. So there's two versions of Chillow. There is Chasing Chillow, which is like a Chasing Cheetah is kind of like more complicated, a little bit more advanced. It's double-sided lace with beads. And then there is Chillaxing Chillow or Chillaxing Cheetah, which is a little bit easier to do. I know some people have already finished their Chillows. This one right here is one of the ones that I knit while I was in Germany. So the color I ended up showing you, sending everybody with the kit was this gorgeous purple color, but it was a brand new color for Valdani. So they didn't have it. So they sent me home with the red that I'm wearing and this denim color. And actually in the hotel room, I knit this blue one to make sure that my design idea was going to work. And it totally did. And I also made that shirt for that photo, which I'll tell you about later in the sewing section. And many of you have been, oh, wait, I'm not ready to tell you that. Many of you have been asking if there's going to be other colors for Chillow, and there totally are going to be other colors. So, I don't know if all of you have watched the video for Chillow. Some of you haven't if you're not in the club, because that video is part of the pattern for anybody who's bought the pattern or is in the club. But club members all got their Chillow in this adorable little cheetah case. And I've had a few people ask me where I found these cheetah cases. And I actually found these cheetah cases when I was in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, in this little town that I don't even remember, in this gift shop across from a palace that the queen comes to, like, or the queen used to come to, I'm so sorry, once every very so often. And it was just like this adorable little gift shop. And they had all this stuff from this company called Rex of London. And I bought a few things. And then I came home and I wanted to get them for clubs. And I finally was able to find them at a US wholesaler. And so I ordered enough for the club, which is a lot. There's a lot of you in this club. And I ended up having to pay something like 37% VAT on these, which is like, so the price that they were, it was almost like half as much again, because the order was so big, it got held by customs and they like didn't like something about the way that the paperwork had been done through the company. And so they're expensive little cases. I hope you love them as much as I do. It was a good lesson in like when the fine print says VAT not included, that I should like pay attention to that. So like the Valdani thread, VAT is included. I'm not going to pay more duties on that coming in. I kind of like know the price is the price. These were like surprise. So I've not seen them available anywhere in the States, but if I ever do see them available, I'll let you know if you want to get more, because I am not going to be ordering from them again because, But anyway, naming Chillow was perhaps one of the hardest things ever. So, you know, I knew I had this case. I'm going to go to the overhead camera because I got a story to tell you here. I knew that I had this case with a cheetah on it and that it was the perfect thing to hold your beads and pendant and yarn and dental floss threader. And I knew it had a cheetah on it. Was definitely into that, right? Married to that. And then I was like, okay, so we got Lola and we got cheetah. Maybe I can call it a Lita collar. Or maybe I can call it a Lita collar. Or maybe I can call it a cheetah collar. And then for a little while, I was like, well, what if a cheetah is my familiar? I could call it the familiar collar. That doesn't really. This is what naming patterns looks like sometimes. It's so freaking hard. When it's hard, it's so hard. And then we came up with Lita with only one T. And then Stephanie and I, my friend who works for me, had a drink or two one night. And we were like, Catola collar? Like, does that sound like anything? And then, oh, we had Catalola collar. That's not happening. And then Max started liking catamount. So we started looking up other words for mountain lions because y'all, Lola wanted to name it cougar collar because she was like, a cheetah's basically a cougar, so let's call it a cougar collar. And then we were like looking up other names for cougar because I didn't really feel like I could call it cougar collar, even though I wanted to call it cougar collar. And so a catamount is another name for a mountain lion. So we had catamount collar in the running. See, this is a long story. Like 20 minutes later, I'm getting there. This is how long it took to name this thing. And then the next day, Willow, who doesn't work for me anymore, she had her last day helping build these kits a few weeks ago. Willow came into work and I was like, Willow, we need to name it. It needs a name. The cards need to go to print. I need a name. And I was like, this is the thing. This is my list of dumb ideas and none of them is resonating. And she was like, okay, so Cheetah and Willow. How about the Chillow collar? And I was like, like only a teen, bless her heart, right, is going to be like, Willow, Cheetah, Chillow. And Chillow ends up being just like the freaking perfect name for this piece. I love it. I love Willow. I miss her. She's going to college. Bless. I'm so thrilled for her. And I already have someone new helping me out in the studio who is going to fill Willow's shoes very well, luckily. But I love that the last act that Willow did for me working here was to name Chillow collar because it is just the perfect name and so much better than cougar collar. Don't you think? I think so too. This feels like a good time to share something with you. Speaking of cougars, Lola was very impressed that Martha Stewart made it onto the cover of Sports Illustrated. Martha is looking fly and Lola's a little jealous, I think. And so she's working on something in hopes that she can potentially maybe also get to be on Sports Illustrated at some point. What do you guys think? Do you think Lola has a chance at a future on the Sports Illustrated cover? I think she's looking fine. All right. Are you laughing? I hope you are. Is anybody going to be like, Lola's canceled for calling Martha a cougar, right? I was like, am I going to get canceled for doing this? Because it's really freaking funny, I think. Anyway, go Martha. I'm so impressed by that this week. That was some good news. I love that. I love Martha. I've always had a soft spot for Martha in my heart. I see people laughing. I'm just going to let you laugh. Andrea, I see you laughing. I sent it to you last night and you were like, what is going on with you? I'm looking at my notes because I get highly distracted. Let me tell you about my knitting. So off my needles is the nice scarf. Oh, to end the Chillow collar. If anybody did not get a kit because they're not signed up for Lola's Choice and they wish they had, there are literally 3 kits left. I will bet you by tomorrow morning, Thursday morning, I'll be sending out notices to everybody whose Lola's Choice orders are complete. So if you want to sign back up for July, you can totally do that. I forgot to say that. Sorry. Forget these things sometimes. My mom's nice scarf, which was, I made her one in this like gorgeous shibui silk mohair. I sent that to her with crystal beads. I forgot to take finished photos of it, but I sent it off and it got there for Mother's Day. And that made me really happy that she got something on time for once, because that is not always how I do. The other thing that I am knitting right now is a Delight scarflet. So if you all remember Delight from Low Lumber, which was like a huge schlanket. And then I did Delight Scarf in January, which was like a scarf version of Delight. Now I'm doing something even smaller. It's more like a scarflet style. And I am knitting it with this yarn that I got on local yarn store day. My friend Julie Beth came to visit me and we went to Watkins Glen to Fiber Arts in the Glen. And I really was like, I'm not buying a lot of yarn. But I saw this skein of yarn from Labyrinth Yarns from Lisa Lamb. I think I saw her in here earlier. And she's actually from Odessa, which is very, very close to my house, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from here. And she is a hand spinner and dyer and like absolutely creates, spins the most gorgeous yarn. So the skein that I am working with is I can actually read it instead of, it's a merino wool baby alpaca mulberry silk sport weight. And there's about 2 ounces on here. So I kind of went for a width, and I'm going to go to the overhead camera so you can see it more closely. I kind of went for a width that I felt like was a good width for a scarflet, and you start right down here. And if I zoom in, you can like see how incredible the colors are in this hand spun yarn. So I think that this pattern is really good if anybody has kind of collected those super precious skeins or sees them at their local yarn store or like at a farmer's market and isn't quite sure what to do with them. I'm just kind of like doing my yarn porn thing right here where I kind of slide down the knitting so that you can see all of the stitches and you can see all these like little flecks of orange in there. I'm actually on the last section. I thought this was going to be done before tonight. I've just got this much of a ball left, so I have one more little stockinette stitch section just like that, and then I will work garter stitch until I bind off at the end. So I'm very, very close to being done with this highly amusing scarflet that I've just kind of been knitting in the background as I'm trying to figure out other things. And there is a fair amount of knitting that has been stumping me lately. So it's been really nice to have something else to play with. So I could tell you about all those other things I'm trying to knit. I am working on July's Lola's Choice kit. The first version of is knit. As you know me, I never do just one thing. So the second thing that I'm working on is a simpler version because I worry with Lola's Choice sometimes that things are too complicated and I kind of want to like back it up a little bit and make it more simple. So I've got a simpler version of that design, and then I spent part of the weekend deep into working on the beaded element for that design, and it is fire. And once I got that figured out, I had to like do bead counts and then make sure I could get the right number of beads to make it work. And that's been kind of complicated, but I have final bead color tests coming in the mail tomorrow. And then all of that will get ordered. And it is so good. So good. Very excited about it. So that's July's Lola's Choice, totally in the running. The yarn is actually already here. For some things that are taking a month and a half to come from Europe, that yarn came from Denmark and it took 2 days. Like I literally ordered it on a Monday and it was here on a Wednesday last week, which I don't even understand. So that was just magic, I think. But I just kind of gave something away about, whoops, sorry. So that's Lola's Choice July. I also have Lola's Choice September designed and yarn on its way so that I can knit it. And I love that as well. I am also working on July's N Club kit, which actually the kit ships middle of July and then it releases beginning of August. And that design, I have a yarn that I got here that's dyed domestically that I absolutely adore. And it was interesting. I was knitting it and it was like intricate and yet too simple. Like it wasn't enough, even though it was really intricate. And I ended up deciding to order some more yarn to complement the yarn that I was working with. So I'm waiting on that yarn right now to keep going with that design. I have plenty of time. I'm not worried about the time, but Design a lot of times for me looks at changing my mind or like zhuzhing things a little bit, and I listen if I have something like niggling, if something's just not like, if I'm not settled into something and like absolutely adoring it and feeling like I am good, I will stop and figure it out and make it right. And that's, I'm so glad I gave myself enough time with the N Club to have room for magic. Basically, that's what I call that, right? Like if I'm doing everything right up to the hour, I don't have time to be like, ooh, that's so good, I want to do that, or like just have an idea and get to run with it. So that has been my life lesson lately, is to give myself enough time and grace to allow room for the fun stuff. And sometimes the fun stuff is changing my mind, which is always a blast. You know me. So that is N Club July. Let me look at my notes. I'm also I'm taking a group on a cruise that leaves out of Amsterdam. I know many of you watching are going on that with me. And going to Norway and Iceland and then Shetland and then Edinburgh and back to Amsterdam. And I'm working on the design for that cruise, and I've got yarn here, and I'm going to actually show you some of it in a second because it's very exciting, but not showing you the other part of the yarn. And I'm working on concepts for that, and some concepts are getting scrapped and some of it will like just get moved into the next bit. And I think it's going to be very fun and exciting once it is done, but it is not quite there yet. So that is very fun. And finally, I'm thinking about, for those of you who've known me for a while, do you remember, I should have had a jacket of it or a photo of it to show you the Novus Jacket. Do you guys remember Novus Jacket? Next time I do a live, I'll show you Novus Jacket so you know what I'm talking about. I'll give you a link below afterwards to see it. So Novus Jacket was one of my first side-to-side Novus sweaters, and I love Novus Jacket. And I've always wanted to do a DK weight version of Novus Jacket, but I'd love to hear from you if you think that that is a good idea, because it is something that I could swatch, get gauge, choose a yarn, and probably hand it off to somebody else to knit, because I've knit a few of those. I know how to knit it. I'm not going to be making any design decisions. I'm just going to be changing it for gauge. Susie just asked if, Susie, I'm not allowed to read the chat. It's like, squirrel. So I'm looking at DK weight yarns. I have a few DK weight yarns I'm thinking about, and I'm going to ask you a question about DK weight yarns later, so start thinking on that. One that I have here that I know that I love is Cotton Comfort from Green Mountain Spinnery. I'm going to go to the overhead camera. So Cotton Comfort from Green Mountain Spinnery is an absolutely scrumptious, let's look at it's 80% fine wool and 20% organic cotton. So what the cotton does in that is give it this really nice marled effect. And I tried to use this yarn for Lake Hug, but then I scrapped that design, but I have not scrapped this yarn. So I think this yarn is in the running for a DK weight Novus Jacket. Another yarn in the running is Kelborn Woolen Scout. I don't know if any of you have ever knit with Scout before. It's 100% wool yarn that is dyed in the wool and then spun, so it has a lot of like depth to the color, and it's a really great just kind of workhorse kind of yarn, like a really really lovely good yarn. And I've always wanted to knit something with it, and it would make a sweater that would last for a while, which is something that I think Novus Jacket wants to be, is kind of like that sweater you grab and wear around the house and throw over a chair and have it wear well over time. The third yarn that I'm looking at that might actually be closer to a worsted weight than a DK weight is Loch Lomond by BC Garn. And I really love this yarn. It's 100% organic wool. It is BC Garn. I've worked with some of their yarns in the past, but this one in particular, I'm really intrigued by Loch Lomond. It also, I think it would be fun for doing this if it's comes out around Rhinebeck, if I used a yarn that is available at sheep and wool festivals, because I think a lot of us are going to festivals like that to be able to like be outside and support yarn makers. So if you have ideas, I'm going to be asking about that later. Hint, hint, giveaway thoughts, hint, hint. But those are a few yarns that I'm playing with. The yarn that I got, how are we doing on time? I'm a chatty Cathy tonight. I'm like halfway through everything and it's already, do you guys have like knitting and you have a drink, you have something going on keeping you busy while I chat, I hope. So let me see how to do this. I think you can see I have a whole box of yarn and I'm going to go to the overhead camera and then let's go to the overhead camera. There's the box and then I'm going to open it. And this is yarn that I just got in the mail from Shetland. It doesn't quite all fit underneath the camera, so I'm going to move it a little bit. It is from Laxdale yarn. It is all 100% Shetland wool. It is jumper weight, which is basically fingering weight. And obviously, I'm thinking about doing something with color work. And when I ordered, I didn't order any natural colored yarns, but they sent a bunch of new natural colors that they just added. So I have ideas. And I'm pretty excited. I haven't done a lot of color work like this. I can see this being, look at my nails, a giant rabbit hole of fun. This box is pretty special. I want to marry it. I like to marry things that I love. I'm engaging this yarn right now to me. We're engaged. Sorry, I'm a freak. Pretty excited about this box of yarn, but I'm making myself finish a few things before I dive into, I'm covering it up. You can't have it. This one's mine. Not a giveaway. Mine. Really fun to have something new to play with and to have something to look forward to as I get through the things that I'm figuring out. So other things going on is because I've been home for a chunk of time, I get to do some sewing. So I sewed for the Lola's Choice photo shoot for Chillow. And my friend, I wasn't sure what I was going to wear with Chillow. And I found out that a friend of mine in Trumansburg, in my hometown, started an online fabric shop called Frankie Rose. So basically like 5 minutes from my house, it is in kind of, over her garage in her big old farmhouse. She has an online fabric shop and she invited me over to look for fabrics that would work. All of the fabrics that she sources are sustainable and have like environmental and sustainable processes. So she really looks at like how companies work and where they get their fibers from and how those fibers are made. So she has a lens that she's purchasing her fabrics through, and they are all, I can just go to the front camera for a second. They're all really like for apparel or home. It's not so much quilting fabric. So that is right up my alley because I'm an apparel sewer, right? And it's hard to find apparel fabric sometimes that I like. So I found this rayon from her that is it was a little sweet when I first saw it. It's like a little more twee than I am, but it looked so good with the purple of Chillow. And then when I came home and I started sewing it, this is tunic number 1 from Sonia Phillips, which I have sewed like 800 million of. I found some Liberty of London bias binding in my stash, and I realized by adding that, it kind of add this little like playful bit to the top, which made it really fun. So I added that on, and I'm glad I did because it kind of added an element to it that's going to make it so I wear it a little bit more. And then I also made a shirt. This is a self-drafted knit pattern that I drafted from a shirt that I loved years ago. And this is knit fabric that I brought home from Finland. I went to the Marimekko outlet. And if I zoom in a little bit, you have to look kind of close to really see it. But I'm afraid maybe I cut the fabric upside down, but it's a really confusing print because I kind of see a guy with a smiley face and eyes kind of like right over my right boob over there, kind of like center right boob. There's kind of 2 guys maybe holding hands. It's like a Rorschach print. But when then I look down, it kind of looks like that there's a bird upside down in a lake. And I ended up deciding that perhaps this fabric did not have an up and a down, and it went every which way, kind of like Marimekko. So like if I had made the birds go the other way, the faces would have been upside down. So I like the way I did the placement in the end, and that shirt is super comfortable. I'm very happy to have it in my wardrobe, and I can tell I'm going to wear it a ton. I haven't done a lot of self-drafting. I'm working on self-drafting another project right now based on my favorite flax bathing suit over piece, whatever those things are called you wear over a bathing suit cover up. And it's like a bias cut thing with a pocket that's stuck into the bias. And I have on this weekend, I cut it apart to try to understand the construction a bit. And I think I understand it, but now I need to draft it and do a few muslins and see if I can get the pattern right. And then I have some really nice fabric that I think I want to make one out of if I can get it together. And then the last thing I did, but I don't really have any good photos of it, is I made myself a knit shirt with this awesome jellyfish knit fabric that I found at Jackie's. And this is a, what's the name of this company? Let's see if I don't think I wrote it in here. It's Green Style Raglan Tee. I'll give you the link to it below. And this is a t-shirt I've made a ton of over the years. The leftovers of this fabric are going to be freaking awesome for underwear, which I sew in like every 2 years. I kind of have an underwear sewing party and I make a bunch of underwear for myself because I love my homemade underwear. So it's in a box with all of my other fun knits for making underwear. My underwear basically make me look like I'm a toddler, because Lola's basically a toddler. Not surprising, right? Jellyfish is fun. It's fun to have fun shirts, especially like wearing this with just a shawl over it is going to be really fun. I think I'm looking forward to, I guess it was cold enough today to wear it. I didn't think of that. That's a really good segue into nature and home. So since I've been home, I've been taking pictures of home. I've been hiking a lot. I've had friends coming to visit. Definitely enjoying the great outdoors. This was taken on a hike with Thea Coleman, who came to visit me. We went to a few different gorges. I think we had a waterfall a day. I took her to, these are some fiddlehead ferns that I found on a hike, just popping up out of the ground. It's been one of those springs where I'm like down on my hands and knees and taking pictures of things as I find them. Red trilliums, which are always elusive, but the last few years I've really found the spots where red trilliums naturalize. These are not a flower you can like have in your garden. You just kind of find them wild. They're unique to the Finger Lakes region, and I think I showed them to you last year as well. This is the Anai. I took her to Taganic, which is the tallest waterfall east of the Mississippi. It's taller than Niagara Falls. Many of you know it is in Trumansburg, my hometown. And we went down to the base there to see it. This was from a few weeks ago. I think I was with Julie Bath, and it was like covered in mist. We're up at the overlook here. So where Thea and I took that picture is kind of down below where you can see that pathway down at the base, and this is up high, and it was like magical. Like you almost thought there could be dinosaurs kind of like flying through. It was very, very wet morning. And this was actually this morning. I went for a hike this morning at Taganic, and it was really cold out, like quite brisk, but also really dry. And you kind of can get that feeling of the dry crispness. And I just see a heart in this photo. Sometimes, not every time you go, but the way that the greens kind of surround all of the rock, it makes a perfect heart and almost makes me cry. This is another view from the hike, kind of overlook as you're coming around and going around the rim. I was doing the rim. And when I made to the other side of the rim, I glimpsed and I saw all of this red out of the corner of my eye. And I went and I looked, and all along the edge of the cliff going down into the gorge was just like covered with these wild columbines. And this photo just gives you an idea. It's not like the world's prettiest photo, but they were like everywhere on the cliffs, it was breathtaking. I sent photos to my family because I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. The other thing I have been doing lately is working on my garden. So this was a field trip to my favorite Amish market with my friend Stephanie to buy plants. Definitely do this. I say I do it once every spring. I think I end up going there 4 times in the spring because I'm like, and then I need, and I also need, and then I gotta get. This is a tail I'm just going to come back to myself. This is the tale of a story that I do every year in my garden. We put in raised bed gardens about 15 or 16 years ago. We just have 4 or 5 of them. And then we grow as the spirit moves us. And then we buy from friends who are farmers when we want vegetables. But I love getting stuff going in the spring. So I go to the farmer's market. And so all the way out over on the left is the one bed that I always plant early, and I switch which bed it is. And, I bought some kale, and I bought some lettuce starts and some collard and, some parsley and just things I was like, oh, that'll get going quickly and then we'll get to eat it. And then the middle photo is me coming out the next day where something had like munched the kale, walked around inside of the bed a little bit, eaten a little bit of the lettuce and left. And then over on the right, yesterday, the bed looked glorious. Everything was looking big. I was like, I think we're going to come back from Baltimore and be able to start eating our lettuce. And I didn't take a picture. And I went out this morning to take a picture. And some bun, despite my snake things that you'll probably wonder what those are, and I'll tell you in a second, totally devastated and like munched down the collards, and like there's barely any lettuce left. And the kale was clearly really yummy. We try to dissuade the bunnies by taking these pieces of wire that's covered in rubber. Max would know the technical term for what that is. I call them our fake snakes. And we put them in different places in the garden, and we try to move them around every so often so that maybe the bunnies and other creatures will think that they're snakes and not go near them. But clearly I didn't move them, and I should have moved them more. This is part of my backyard that we have been working on. We have a creek in our backyard, and for many, many years, it was just like brush along the creek and not kind of like a set garden bed. And we've been slowly reclaiming that so we can see down the creek. Thank you, Andrea. I feel like this section is for my friend Andrea, who was here and kind of helped me envision what the creek beds could look like. So this was a few weeks ago. And then this was maybe last week when we got the lawn got mowed, and the forget-me-nots were coming in, and the Brunera there. And then this was over the weekend, I think. You can see the lilacs are really coming in, and the tulips are opening up. And then this was just earlier today. So there's like some late tulips, and you can really see that bed kind of coming together as it's moving. So I'm going to try to keep taking this angle photo for you all and for me, because it's really fun to see a progression. I just looked over at the chat, and someone asked if the small tree with the white blossoms is a dogwood. And yeah, that is a Japanese dogwood that was here when we moved in, and it's doing really, really well. It's really happy. So I also saw somebody ask in the chat how far Trumansburg is from New York City. And if you're me driving, it's 4.5, 5 hours. If you're the Cornell bus driving, it's like under 4 hours. So probably 4.5 to 5 hours, we're going to say. I think I made it through all of the nature. Oh, I didn't quite. I have been taking photos by holding things up, little photos. It's a thing, I guess. And there is just like a sweet little flowers. It was earlier in the spring where I was like, I love this flower and that flower and this flower. And then our asparagus is cranking. So I'll talk about that when we get to food. We've been eating a lot of asparagus. And then that's the inside of a tulip, because that shit is cool. There you have it. So normally, sometimes I show you travel pics, but this time I just got to show you home pics, which is a blast to be able to share that bit of my life with you all outside of knitting and sewing and all that jazz. We're starting to wrap up. We're almost an hour in. I think it's appropriate to tell you about Thursday. Tell you about what I've been reading and watching and all of that. So in terms of reading, I've been on a Barbara Kingsolver kick. I was already listening to Demon Copperhead when, I don't know if any of you saw on the internet, I think Susie posted it in our Facebook group, and then other people had shared it with me. Barbara Kingsolver and a knitwear designer came out with a pattern to match one of her books, because I did not know that Barbara is a knitter, which is very exciting. We're going to get her on Knit for Food next year. So I think that's totally going to resonate with her. She has strong feelings about food and knitting. I think she's a key person to get involved in Knit for Food. So I've been reading Demon Copperhead, which actually just won an award. Congratulations, Barbara Kingsolver. And really enjoying that. And then I decided to listen to Prodigal Summer, because I over on Facebook, I had asked, like, what were your favorite Barbara Kingsolver books? And a few people said Prodigal Summer, and I'd never listened to it or read it. And I devoured that. Absolutely loved it. Really, I was surprised that it was over. I could have kept going like 5 more hours, and I would have happily kept listening. Barbara actually does the narration, and I love when authors who are strong readers, speakers, narrators do their own narrations, and she's superb at it. So I would highly suggest that one as a listen if you like to listen to books. A book that I just got that I'm going to read when I'm done with Demon Copperhead is Bernie's Mittens by Jen Ellis. So this book just came out in May. My friend Justine is good friends with Jen. Jen is the school teacher from Vermont who made the felted mittens and gifted them to Bernie, who he then wore at the inauguration. And I started it just a little bit the other day, and it is about so much more than the mittens. Those mittens, like, I think what happened as a viral sensation of those mittens, like if you search Bernie's Mittens, Jen's name is kind of the last thing that comes up now, because all these people have like done all this product merchandise and stuff around those mittens, have become kind of this iconic symbol. And so this is her story about her as a maker and as a teacher in Vermont, and as, I believe she's a single mother. I don't want to speak wrong. Jen Ellis was a teacher and crafter when the mittens she sewed for Senator Bernie Sanders became the inspiration for millions of memes. Originally from South Portland, Maine, Ellis's teaching career spanned nearly 2 decades in the public schools of North Carolina and Vermont. She's a songwriter, beekeeper, and crafter of the occasional pair of mittens for local nonprofit fundraisers. She is currently pursuing a master's in counseling from the University of Vermont. She lives in Vermont with her wife and daughter. So I take that back about the single mother thing. I don't know where I came up with that. So I'm excited to read this. If anybody else wants to read it, I think it would be fun to have a read along. We haven't done that in a while, where we've all kind of read a book together and talked about it. I can set up a thread over in our Ravelry group if you want to do that. We can have a thread going in a Facebook group, wherever you like to do that. But it's fun to read a book and kind of discuss as things are resonating with us. So Bernie's Mitten Makers. Good times. In terms of watching, I've had a fair amount of watching time while I've been knitting. I will say that I wanted to watch Cocaine Bear really badly, and I was scared to, but when Thea was here, she was willing to watch it with me, because Max was not willing to watch it with me. And it was so funny, and I laughed really hard, and we made big fun of it. And I know that the bear in Cocaine Bear was AI, but by the end I totally thought they were all real bears. I was all in with that experience. Not for everybody. I would say watch it with a friend. Watch it with somebody who's gonna be willing to laugh a lot with you and see it through that lens, instead of like being like scared or sad, because the actual story of Cocaine Bear is quite sad. So that's all I'm going to say. I also watched, there's a new Bridgerton, which is not season 3 of Bridgerton. It is like a prequel that kind of explains the backstory of Queen Charlotte. And that is up on Netflix for those of you that are Bridgerton lovers like I am. And I watched it over the weekend and totally only let myself have 2 episodes a night. I think there were 6 total, because I would have binged the whole thing, and I wanted to kind of med it out and enjoy it and experience it. And it did not disappoint, and I don't think it will disappoint you if you are looking for some good Bridgerton entertainment. And finally, the new Queer Eye is out, and it's cracking Lola up, and I'm just along for that ride with Lola and Jonathan, because they love each other. So there we have that. In terms of eating, I have been eating rhubarb and asparagus because 'tis the season. And rhubarb, I make this thing that it's really not an attractive thing. We call it rhubarb splooge at my house. It's basically where you take rhubarb and you cook it down with a little bit of honey or sugar and some ginger. And then you make this kind of jammy thing that we add to our yogurt or add to our granola. You can also take that and like, if you're going to do any baked good, you can kind of make it a layer in your baked good, but we end up eating the splooge. And I know that word's not for everybody. It makes me giggle every time I say it. So with our asparagus, oftentimes I just grill it and we'll eat it all grilled. But I also make a pasta where I kind of boil pasta al dente, save some of the pasta water, and then I put the pasta back in a pan and I give it like a little bit of butter, olive oil, and a bunch of goat cheese, and then some grated lemon zest, and then pieces of the asparagus that kind of like get blanched in the pasta water. I forgot to say that for the last second, thrown in there. And then you add some pasta water as needed. And the goat cheese basically just makes this like amazing cheese sauce, and then salt, pepper. I like to put some Aleppo pepper, some kind of like hot red pepper in there to kind of spice things up a little bit. And that is one I just make on my own, but Smitten Kitchen has a really similar version to that recipe. So I will give you a link below to hers if that sounds yummy to you. Goat cheese works great to make kind of like a creamy, cheesy sauce and still be like kind of healthy-ish. We all need a little pasta in our lives sometimes. That's what I say. So it's time to wrap it up. I have not shown you the yarn for the giveaway. I do want to ask if you have any questions while I get ready to show you one more thing and then tell you the giveaway winner for last week. So if you have any questions, you can ask over in the comments. Oh my gosh, I have the funniest photo that I'm going to have to put it up on Facebook for you all to see this photo. But remember that I said I'm going to show you a photo on Facebook. Valentina just asked me what kind of grill I have. It's extra funny when I show you this photo, but I'm not going to pull it up right on my phone right now. So we have a grill that I bought at Sears, which is now defunct, back in 2002 for like $170. That was like the lowest line grill. It's a propane grill with like a stainless steel bottom. And Max, much to my chagrin, keeps fixing it. So it's like the world's ugliest propane grill you've ever seen. It works really, really well. It cooks our food great. There's no reason to get another grill. We have a family joke that my husband is taking it to the grave with him. So I've like given up on trying to replace it and get another grill, because he will like basically take welding classes to learn how to make a new grate when we can't find parts for it to fix it, because it's still a good grill and we understand it. It's like part of the family now. Other questions that I see. Mylene wants to know if we can knit the Chillow lace chart in version 1 between the section 2 and section 3 bugle beads, because I love all the version. That is a freaking brilliant idea. So sorry, Mylene, that's an excellent idea. Let's talk about it under the camera. Okay, hold questions for a sec, guys, in case they get buried while I'm showing you this. So this is Chillow collar. This is the chillaxing version 1. And then this is the chasing cheetah version 2. So I believe what Mylene is asking is if she could alternate and work like plain and then work lace and then work plain on the end. The bead count for both of these is the same. So like the beads that are used in this lace is the same number of beads as used there, and same there and there. This is me like thinking it out to make sure I don't show you. And then that bead count is the same there and there. So yes, completely. If you wanted to do solid right here, like version 1 right here, and then look, I'm so excited. I want to make one like this too. And then version 2 right here with the lace. and then do solid again on the end, totally. Or if you wanted to do lace here and then solid, solid, but I think it would be gorgeous to do solid and then lace. I'm staying up late tonight and then solid there. Totally work. Excellent third idea. Go, Mylene. Get in touch with me because I want to thank you personally. That's such an excellent idea. So Leslie wanted us to know that Knitting Magazine has a list of vendors. I don't know if it's a list or if it's people who wanted to place an ad with them that they were willing to do ads for free, Leslie, but that might be some of the vendors. So I can definitely add that link. That's a great idea that Knitty is doing that. Susie wants to know which of my summer cardigan patterns would work well with the silk fingering rate. So most of my summer cardigan patterns, if I remember correctly, La Jefa is a lace, and then Las Cruces is a sport weight, and then Hot Flash is DK weight. And I'm trying to think if there's any other lace. I don't think there's really a fingering weight one, Susie. So you would end up having to do some math or see if the yarn that you have would match gauge to use a silk fingering weight for one of those. That's a good one. How do you decide how much yarn to buy for the Lolancha sweater? I want to get the Mancholopi yarn. How much to buy? Kathy, that is a really easy question to answer because the yardage is all listed on the Ravelry project page. So if you go to Ravelry, type in Lolancha, the sweater pattern will come up and then all that information is there. And if it's not there, leave a comment on that page and I will add it to the page because I should have taken the information from the pattern and put it on the page. I'm normally pretty good about doing that, but sometimes I forget to give you sizes and yardages. So just ask and I will do that. It's an awesome idea. We're all like psyched with Mylene over in the chatter thread right now for thinking of combining version 1 and version 2. Squee. Okay, winner from last squirrel. Keeping it together here. The winner from last week, which was a bespoke nice scarf kit. So I went stash diving and I found this skein of Shibui Knits Lunar in extra fine merino and mulberry silk. It's an absolutely beautiful, like hot pink. And then I found these matching square purple beads that are really, really pretty. It's going to be very fun. Last time for the giveaway, I asked you all to tell me your favorite city, and that was again like one of those like last minute, I don't know what I'm gonna ask, and the answers were really interesting. And some people said Bergen, and I get to go to Bergen this summer. I've never been there. I'm very excited to go to Bergen, Norway. There were all over in the U.S. There was it's a really fun to read all of the comments because people are kind of saying what their favorite city is and why it's their favorite city. So definitely really enjoyed that. And the winner is Jay Hay. So I think it's Julie or Juliana, but it just said Jay Hay, Hey. And she said, can I pick any city in Japan? LOL. While Tokyo is a bustling major city with a cool vibe, and Kyoto is one of the ancient capitals with lots of shrines, temples, palaces, I really love Nara with its smaller major city feel to go along with the shrines and temples. Oh, and the friendly feed me a cookie deer. So I guess Nara is my answer today. I've never heard of Nara, Japan. So I'm going to add that to my list of places that I would like to go one day too. So Jay, hey, Julie, I don't really know. Could be Justine, could be Jennifer. Get in touch and I will get your kit out to you. You have to get in touch with me when you are a winner. I don't tag you. So you have to keep an eye on these and find out if you are a winner or not. Okay, I just saw another question here on BlingT. How do you get bust and hip measurement? So Mary, what you want to do is measure your full bust right here, and whatever your full bust is, go along and look at the sizes 1 through 9, and then you'll see where it says actual bust measurement. look for the measurement that is the closest to your bust, and that is the size that you want to make. And we do have a thread in Ravelry that is an excellent place to ask that question. If you want to tell me your bust measurement, if you aren't sure what size you should make, I'm happy to answer that there. I've been doing that for people when they're not sure what size they should be making. Your giveaway for this time, and I have one more funny thing to show you. So do you remember Lola wanting to be Martha? Somebody else had like a really good idea that maybe the one thing that Lola is missing in this photo is a cougar collar. So we get a cougar collar on Lola on Sports Illustrated here. My Photoshop skills are not the best, but hey. And I did also see a question. If you need a coupon code for the summer sweaters, no, you do not. That's just automatically taken at checkout. I really like to make things easy. Okay. Oh, did you want to see that again? I'm sorry. There we go. Cougar collar. I know it's a good one. I'm going to make you not have to go back. Pretty proud of myself right now. Just, keeping it light. Giveaway this week. So this is the 50th anniversary live, and we've been having a good time tonight. So this is crazy. I have a pile of yarn for you for the giveaway for the 50th version of these. I have no words anymore. I'm clearly done. 50th anniversary, huge pile of golden yarn, because 50th anniversaries are our golden anniversaries. I'm so glad we've been married so long. I love y'all so much. And I basically just went stash diving with Lola, and we looked for all of some golden yarns in lots of different weights. I'll quickly tell you about them. There is a skein of Manos Cardo, which is a Corriedale bulky weight wool. Clearly not a color. I love it all. Favorite color. There is a skein of Kettle Yarn Bayo Singles Praline, which is the yarn that I made caramelized cowl with. There is a skein of Emma's Yarn Golden Hour, because come on, Golden Hour, I had to choose that. I'm not sure I want to give you this skein. I really love this skein. There is a skein of Olan Mira, which is a fingering weight 100% fine merino that was milled in Ireland, that is not available anymore because Olan actually closed this year. So that's a pretty special skein. And then there's a skein of Germantown that I made another contexta with, which is a pot holder that Lola did a few years ago. And this is 100% North American wool. And finally, I found a skein of silky linen in Cobblestones of Scotland, which is a color that I designed with Cheryl from Essence of Autumn. So those of you who are knitting sprang, you could totally knit a sprang in this yarn as well. So this is the giveaway. It's pretty special. And what I would love, so much yarn, right? A little crazy. I'm hoping somebody from the States win it, but I don't look and see where you're from when I choose the winner. It's all random. So what I would love to hear from you for this giveaway, and do not give your answer in the chatter thread. You are going to give it below once I am done and say goodbye to you. So hold on to your answer, because I won't be counting giveaways or comments that are said in the chatter thread. I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite thing that you've ever seen in one of these lives or logs that I've been doing for a while now? So most of you have been watching. You get to say Martha if that's your favorite thing that I've ever done. But anything I've taught you, anything I've shared with you, it's fun for me to hear what resonates with you, because then I know kind of what to continue doing in the future. So to celebrate 50, that's what I'd love to hear from you. Once I say goodbye to you, hold on to it. Don't say anything now. I know you guys are going to be all excited to win all of this yarn. But what I want to tell you is the next live is not set in stone, because I'm not sure what life is looking like because this weekend we're going to Baltimore because my daughter is graduating from graduate school, which is huge news, and we are super proud of her. And then we'll be home for a week or two, and then we are going on a family road trip. We are flying to Boise, renting an RV, and driving towards Yellowstone. So if anybody knows anything that we should do in that like Idaho, Montana, Wyoming area, I'm a little obsessed with going to Sun Valley and Ketchum, and I heard there's some good hot springs around there. I know we're going to head towards Yellowstone somewhere in there, maybe the Grand Tetons. I think we want to do some whitewater rafting. Totally open to ideas from all of you. So we got a family trip, and then as soon as we come home from that trip, I'm going to Maine to teach with a group at Searsport Shores through Knitwit, which is a yarn store in Maine, and I can give you that link below. I think there's a few spots left in that camping retreat. So when I come home from that, I am home. In between there, I'll be hopefully shipping the Bling T kits so that we can cast on when I am back from Maine. So maybe June 21st for a live, and maybe after that. So summer gets very, very busy. I see somebody say some things in the comments about Idaho. I'll check those out once I say goodbye to you. So let me know your favorite thing in a live to win all of this gorgeous golden yarn. And I really, really, really thank you for being here and listening to me yammer and being part of this community with me. You support me, I support you. We are knitting together. So Lola and I adore you. Happy knitting.